Anita
With ice in it.
will be able to join us hopefully by 7:30.
Okay.
So we thought I could at least get us kicked off here. I know Vinnie's chapter has been circulated, and I think there was another version up there. Well, the finance chapter, I'm sorry. The one that you gave comments on. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know nothing about finance.
Yeah.
Most of my questions.
Kind of like me trying to write the historical one. So I guess that was one of the first things that I was kind of thinking is, Anita mentioned she wouldn't be here right away, is that both of the chapters that have been worked on, I think, in the last month are really in the hands of other people being reviewed. Vinnie put a lot of good comments in his.
Yes, he did.
And I know that's already been sent out to FinCom to look at. I spoke with Carol at Historic Society.
Yeah.
Sort of did a little phone interview with her, explaining what we're trying to do, and kind of picked her brain, and then tried to throw that all together in a document and sent it to her for feedback. So I'm waiting for that. She's working on it. She's going to meet with the board. I might drop in this Thursday just to see them and see what goes on there, because I'm getting an education.
Best I hear.
I am not the historian that you are, so I apologize to her if I was very brief, but the idea is to keep the document, fairly small with a lot of information in the appendices. So I think as far as chapters, I don't know if you wanted to go over what you would put in, or wait till we get information back from FinCom, or if everyone has a chance to
I had
read
questions,
it.
but I don't know if people didn't understand the questions. It's not like I know the answers.
Yeah.
It's just, if I were reading this, and again, I'm coming in just
Right,
brand new. and
right.
If I were looking at this as a comprehensive plan, I would want to have a little bit more summarized, more information to be able to make sense of it. I mean, there was a whole lot of numbers there.
Yep.
On that
Yeah.
listing, and it was nice, but I don't know what it means. And it's
Right.
like, I see some of the numbers go from, we had 396,000 and we're down to 180. Is 180 good? Is 200 good? Is 500 what it's supposed to have? I don't know what the numbers really reflect, and just throwing them all out there, it doesn't, I mean, it didn't help me.
Right.
There may be people that are
Well, I think we've discussed this issue before many times in this committee, that we've had things that have been way too detailed, and it's almost like you can't see the forest through the trees. That's been one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is this, unless this is online as a printed material, we're never ever going to get accurate information, real-time accurate information, because as soon as we can compile all that information, something's changing or something's different, so it's, I think, again, the consensus or what we should get to at some point in time is this is the best information we can put out there at this present time, and I don't know what everyone else has thought about it, but I don't know how detailed things need to be intricately until it really actually comes down to practical application, and I don't think that the master plan was ever designed for that, to work out every little bug. I mean, I think we gotta do our due diligence that we don't have competing committees, at war with each other in one master plan. But outside of that, I mean, especially when it comes to financial stability, there's no way we can ever work out all those bugs. That's why we have all these meetings and have all these people.
Right, but some of those questions might drive sort of a clearer description of what a challenge is and what the plan is. It may all eventually kind of fit the format. We're just not there yet.
And the thing that I gotta keep forcing down people is, this is not the master plan. The master plan is a 20-year, 25-year horizon.
Right.
This, based on what we have in the zoning bylaws, is a 3 to 5 year horizon, looking at what's going on, what we need to do, how to focus, and how to get there. That's what Charlie Greeno drafted. And it's clear in the bylaws that it takes everything into account. It doesn't do all the stuff that a master plan has to do. So that's why when I look at it, we don't need to have 1,000 different things in here. We need the stuff that people are worried about. People are ending up paying 15% more in taxes this year. People are paying more taxes for stuff that they don't even know they're paying taxes on. They voted for the senior center, but they don't even know all the other things that are coming up because they're not even mentioned in here. I mean, that is what this group, Townwide Planning Committee, I thought was looking at: capital expenses, like big expenditures, because nobody wants to make a decision when nobody seems to make a decision on stuff. It goes to the selectmen, and it's like first come, first serve, or maybe there's some special interest that needs to get taken care of, so they get moved forward. But in general, I haven't seen a fair and equitable evaluation of all the things that need to get done around town. I just look and I see I drafted the open space and rec plan, I drafted the housing and production plan, I've worked on the master plan. We have like 7 properties in town. Every one of those different plans says in the housing plan, we're going to put housing on that property. In the Parks Commission, we're going to put parks on that. In the open space, we're going to keep it as open space.
And that's part of what the committee
And all
will
those
do
things-
once
that's what
they're
we do.
all written, and
But
we
they
can
are
go
written.
through and look at
Is the
that.
housing plan already written? Is the open space?
Yeah, I'm
already
just not
written?
sure what are finalized. I think we're waiting till they're
All
all
those are
finalized
finalized.
to do that.
They're all finalized. They've
Are you
been
talking about the whole
finalized.
plan?
I'm talking about the
finalized?
whole plan, yeah, because
Well, that-
Well, this
the
is the
next-
comprehensive
yeah.
plan, which is a different thing than the master plan, the open space plan, the housing production plan, or any of the other plans, the municipal facilities plan. All those things are done, and the purpose of this group, I thought, was to incorporate what the recommendations are and then make some evaluations and some decisions.
I know we'll be looking at sort of trying to get people to agree on what things are going to be. I don't know that we're making any decisions on if a piece of property is wanted for 5 different things. I don't think we're going to be making a judgment on who gets it, but
Well, then where's that? I'm just thinking that if that's something that needs to get looked at, this group was made up of all the different players. And that's why I think you're not getting very much of a turnout of members on this committee, because the Parks Commission is busy doing park stuff. They don't want to sit here and review financial data or elderly stuff or this other things. The open space folk, we care, but the housing stuff is a separate issue. So if it comes down to, okay, this is the group that's going to sit around and say, this is what we're looking at, what's your feedback for what can we do over at the Mixed Building? We put the senior center over at the Mixed Building, but then we ran out of money to fix a field, put out a little bit more loan while we have a contractor already there, physically there, and we couldn't have them just smooth the field out nicer because it cost an extra $10,000 because we didn't want the budget to go up a little bit. Let's think about things as a town where the townspeople are paying for this, whether it comes from the Parks Commission or from the Selectmen or from the Senior Center. And if you can save $20,000, maybe the budget goes up a little bit on the Senior Center building. The bottom line for the town's taxpayers are a savings of thousands of dollars. And that's where we need to come.
But this group isn't making those decisions, Vinnie.
This is recommendations. We have no decision-making authority
Right,
at all.
here,
We
right.
make decisions and recommendations to look at things and say, okay, well, we've gotten all this feedback. This appears to be the recommendation to put forth to the selectmen for them to act. All the actions I know will come from the selectmen.
And the facilities group too, that, you know,
Okay.
they're putting the things forward and that gets pushed up to the selectmen and then things go to the town. So my thought as a select person, ma'am, lady, is that everybody's giving us their input and then from there, this will be put together and then reviewed again, like you said, you've already done A, B, and C on those different perspectives, then those will go to the next step. This is just more of an overview of what the different groups either have been working on or what they want to work on. So the final decision isn't coming here.
Is that what it says in I don't read that in the bylaw. When this group was established, the bylaw clearly says what it's supposed to do, and it's to make recommendations at town meeting. Has this group ever made a recommendation at town meeting on a capital expenditure or anything like that? I don't think so.
No, well, this group actually just got going up and running again within the last 8, 9 months,
Well, this group has been going for 5 years.
but we have not.
different.
Yeah, it's different, it's been ups and
Right,
downs.
right,
I mean,
Right, but we haven't had a lot, I'm just gonna say we've not accomplished a lot. I've been on it for the last few years, and since I was on a selectman. So I'm on my 7th year, or close to it, so, or 6, don't quote me.
Yeah.
So, what I'm saying is this group had not, it was very quiet for a long time. And really, the group, I would say within the last, maybe year, got back together and actually sunk their teeth into it and made some headway. Now, Anita has had a little bit of a different spin
There she
on,
is.
oh, here she is. And trying to get this done, but this is the farthest that we have come since I've been sitting at this table to get things done. I don't have mission statement and bylaws, like you were saying, in front of me, so I can't address that answer. But from where I'm coming from, we're just questioning about the group and the purpose and coming to some ideas of if we're all headed in the right direction and trying to bring it all together as a group and a piece. Vinnie had a couple of questions.
And I get what he's saying, though.
thanks.
Because when I first
good
joined the
questions.
committee, back when Leon was, still here, I kind of had that thought, it's town-wide planning, that's what you're doing. It's been mostly about the master plan thing, that, the comprehensive plan, yeah, so, but it makes sense what you're saying. But we've never done that.
It just seems like there's a huge waste of time on a lot of committees that, like in your example, that they would all go for a piece of land and have all different proposals drawn up and voted on, and whatever stages they are in production, bidding for the same piece of land to do something with it. And there's not a centralized, well, no, that is going for this or that's going for that. And I don't think that this committee was ever set up that way. I know back in the Leon days, it was a requirement that the town wanted to, come up with a master plan and have a master plan.
It's not,
And-
no,
and we-
it's
and
not,
we-
it's not a master plan. It's a
Well-
comprehensive, we have a master plan from 2005. It's been established through state law. It's the town's master plan. That's done. This group is not touching that. You're taking parts of it. You should be taking parts of the open space plan, and I know you have been, Joanne has been doing that. You should be taking parts of the housing production plan, which is actually going to get updated again. And you're going to take parts of those and pull out the important stuff, at least the way I see it, pull out the important stuff, and that's what it says, is you pull out that stuff, pull it together so there's a summary of where the town is directing to go. It's not a master planning program.
Well, originally, when I joined anyways, as a citizen member, the master plan was being rewritten every 5 years. And obviously, we're well over that threshold, but that was our main focus and purpose. And there were times that we reviewed different things that we had accomplished, or the town had accomplished, that we had devised or came up with within our group, but it was never a correlation between, well, we said this, and then they did that because we said this. It was always, well, we had made these suggestions, it did go through proper channels, and then the town decided to do those things. So, but it was never ever a cause and effect. We came up with something and then we mandated it for a group to take it. And
Yeah,
go
no,
somewhere
there's no
with it.
mandate from this group. This
Yeah.
is an advisory.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is for this comprehensive plan update, the committee there were draft chapters that were just sitting there from 2014. And this committee, took those and started looking to see how can those be updated and put together into the new updated comprehensive plan. And that's when it started getting, I don't know if I'm repeating what you've already discussed, I apologize, but that's when it started getting bogged down. And we brought an outsider, well, resident, but a consultant, to sit down and talk to the group and say, look, it might be easier if you just recreate the format of each chapter to be something that's much more user-friendly, leaner, easier to use, easier to establish. And so we kept basically the same chapter areas, but each person has been a liaison, or most everybody's a liaison to some group to reach out to the necessary stakeholder groups for each of these chapters. So for example, Transportation Network, I reached out and worked with Butch Jackson to work on the transportation chapter. The housing and population, we reached out and worked with the Affordable Housing Trust and their consultant, who had recently completed the new housing needs analysis study, which will now be part of the housing production plan, which is underway. So that's done. Education was done separately by school committee. So each of these, it was the intent was done and continues to be reaching out to the appropriate stakeholder groups to make sure that all those broad thinking thoughts are included in. And to Rich's point, point, when we get to the point that we have all the draft chapters together, that's when it's going to be really important for us to pull everybody, all the stakeholder groups in somehow. We haven't talked about process yet, to make sure that there's no conflicts in this. You know, the open space plan may be looking at things differently than this facilities, municipal facilities and services
Yeah,
chapter
Vinny
is.
gave us an example of like maybe 3 or, I don't know, it might have even been 4, all after a similar piece of property.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing will be
Well,
apparent if they're
I
listed
think
in
we've
there.
discussed before, though, that classically, in the master plan as it is right now, the 2005 edition or whatever, there are parts in the open space section that directly conflict with the financial things and such. So the classic approach to the master plan in the past has been everybody, to their own, work out their own thing. So there's a plan if the administration decides to go down the path on a certain topic in open space, they can choose that proposal from the master plan, and that's where that project starts going. If they decide to go down a different road, well, then there's a plan for that port of attack. So I think we're going to be, just in my personal opinion, I think we'd be chasing our tails for years to come to try to work out everybody's, decision on whether it's going to be this or that. I mean, again, it's only recommendation anyways, but I think putting it all in there and then letting it speak for itself. There's merit on all sides of the fence. There's always a merit to keep taxes low and to have a economic stimulus situation, and then there's always a reason to try to keep more open space and keep our water clean and all the rest of that stuff. So it's
I agree that there's going to be conflicts between the different chapters, between the different stakeholder groups, but what we had discussed is it's not our role to solve the problems. It's our role in these chapters to identify the problems and to have perhaps then an action item for those chapters be, see if a compromise condition can be, established between this stakeholder group and that stakeholder group, or if not, when you move ahead with this, be mindful of these issues. We don't need to solve the problems, we just need to identify them and put forward the proposed goals and related action items.
This was going to be the forum for pulling those people together, because that's why it's set up and made up of all the different bodies.
well,
So I agree.
I think until it's finished, you can't really
It's never
identify to one degree.
It's never
right?
going to be finished. It's one of those things that you put it together and then
To do it.
There's a few of us that have a purpose in life.
There's going to
and
be a
that's just to finish
2018
this.
version.
Well, that's fine, but don't,
Yeah.
we
It's
just
gonna be
finished the open space
ongoing.
and rec plan, and it's only good for 7 years. And we know that we're gonna need to update it again.
Right.
just-
It's going to be a living document,
Right.
but 2005 was a long time ago.
Yeah.
2005 was a different document. It's
Right.
the master plan.
Right. Yeah. And this, I think we've all been, I think when I first started here and we started reconvening and we got bogged down, we were thinking, when will we ever get this finished? But I think at this point, there appears to be a light at the end of the tunnel that we could pull this thing together to, have some of those stakeholder group discussions this winter and hopefully bring something forward to town meeting next spring. I mean, that's kind of what I have my goal on my calendar set for. The feasibility of that will be determined by how successful we are at finishing these Phase 2 chapters and then the final wrap-up chapters that we need. So, and I know it's hard for everybody. Everyone's lives are busy, committee agendas are full, so we all have to be realistic at the same time, We can aim for the Springtown meeting if everything works well, that's what we'll do. But I think it's also important to make sure that the product is a good product and not a rushed product. So,
We're sure not doing that. No, we're not.
we cannot
We
be,
can't.
ever be accused of rushing this.
So can I ask Vinnie, on your comments, are you saying that we should definitely put those in there to help give the information to the public? Because I'm only concerned is they're gonna be old.
Most of them are questions.
Okay.
Which the
What's gonna be
public may
old? I
have.
mean, if the
Old
document-
information.
Well, but the document's gonna be dated a certain date.
Right.
And, I mean, every
Yep.
fiscal year it's gonna change. I mean, some days, some years we have good fiscal years and others we don't. So everything's gonna change, but it's at least a snapshot in time. And I understand the idea that it's a tough target to hit. But that's on the financial, I mean, just, some of the background stuff is more, because I don't know financial things, and it may be everybody else understands it, and I just don't get it, but when you just tell me an OPBC something or other,
Yeah.
I don't even know what that
Yeah,
stuff is.
if you don't get it, there's a lot of other people that don't get it. So, and we have to be aware of that and make it so it can be understood.
And that's part of what we can help kind of look at, is to get the information from the people that do understand all that and get it in the appendices or something.
Right.
So it's still a
Right.
smaller, easy to focus, easy to look at document.
And the summary stuff, I mean, that table is the one that really kind of got me confused. Key findings. I think that's what it was. There's no numbers on the pages, that would help.
Key challenges or key findings? Oh, yeah, key
one
findings.
through
Yeah, number 3, right,
7
yeah,
different
yep.
things, 8, 1 through 8. It says what these are. Over the past years, they've been the following. But like number 2, the capital funding sources for the past year have been such and such. So this most current year, it's 189,500. But back in 2015, it was 390,000. Should we be at 390,000 or should we be over 100,000? Are we doing, I don't know whether 189 is good, bad, or average. I mean,
Yeah, in
Doesn't tell me.
2015, we had a tremendous free cash. This, I need to rename this, and I can't remember if I did in the document you have in front of you or not, but it's really monies that have been placed into capital investment fund. So this is money that the town has appropriated into that capital investment fund over the past 4 years. So you can see 1 year we had a fantastic free cash allocation, a year more in 2015. Since then, obviously, we haven't had as high a free cash value, but we're still trying to increase the amount that we put into capital investment each year. So this is, this is intended to show the reader some trends on each of these categories.
yep, and that makes perfect sense. But if you don't know whether the trend should stay, if we were good in 2015 and now we're doing terrible, or we were doing amazing in 2015 and now we're back to normal, how much do we need in free cash or whatever this is? I mean, capital funding, how much do we need and what's the typical amount? I mean, we don't need 3 paragraphs on it, but it might be good when you have all these different 1 through 8. You're looking at a trend for the numbers, but there's got to be some analysis of the numbers. Unless that is somewhere else that I
So
didn't get.
maybe in each of these before the stats, put some brief blurb about what the optimum is.
Right, well, like the target of the rainy day fund, whatever the fund that is,
Yeah.
should that be 5? I think it said somewhere that it should be 5% was the target.
Minimum is 5%, yeah.
See, so so a minimum of 5%, are we at 5, are we at 5.5, are we at 25, which I doubt, but
No.
that kind of thing is.
Getting close to
Because then the
6.
numbers were, yeah, 5.46, whatever it might be. But that kind of thing, so it's easy for someone,
That's
because
good feedback.
the intent of this, I thought, was to help the townspeople get a handle on what we're doing. So we're gonna build confidence from the townspeople in what we're doing,
Yeah.
because it's really confusing.
And just as a disclaimer, this has gone to the Finance Committee, so they've got to review this. I mean, because we don't have a Finance Committee representative, in their absence, my finance staff and I put this together. It's gone to the Finance Committee now. It may come back looking totally different from this, I don't know.
Yeah.
It took what was in the 2014 draft and kind of pushed it into the new format, but they may change their mind about content that they want to include in here, so.
Now, the Finance Committee, didn't we talk about this at one of our last meetings? They're not, what they say isn't what goes either, right? They make recommendations, they don't actually make,
Finance Committee is a committee
Advisory.
that makes recommendations or takes votes and opinions on certain matters, but
Yeah.
right.
but there's another entity that actually makes the final decision or comes up with
Town
a
meeting.
recommendation,
Town
right?
meeting makes any final financial decisions.
Okay. Well, but didn't you say we're paying an outside source though for financial?
Oh, there's a few things that we have outside consultant on.
Yeah.
For example, when it comes to borrowing, if we go out and get bonds, we use an outside bond counsel to help prepare all the documentation associated with that. And so bond counsel does give us recommendations, in terms of different items. Matter of fact, not included here, but we can include them as an appendix if the Finance Committee wants, is the financial policies and procedures that the town has, which, provides a lot of the background to what we do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what Vinnie's talking about, that I don't think.
Put it in an appendix or
Yeah.
something.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think, I know I didn't know a lot of that, and still don't know. But I'd like to know. It's good to
I mean, if you can't
be on top of
I
it.
mean, you gotta trust at some point, you gotta trust that the volunteers, the people in town who are on these boards are doing what's in the best interest of the town, and know that there are checks and balances, so people are watching other things. So that's kind of the thing that I think I'd like to see in this comprehensive plan, just the idea that that's there, and then the finance committee is checking out what the school committee is doing. And, because I mean, the budget, was it a third of the budget is schools? And in this,
Not quite, but almost.
is it? But it's one of those 2/3?
Yeah, 60% roughly, depending on the year.
Okay. So but it's not in the financial conditions and strategies. No.
But didn't we handle that in
In the schools.
the school
The
chapter?
school chapter references that.
Right.
And you've got to make sure you get all the draft chapters. Did Cheryl send them to you, or?
No.
Okay.
She
Because
sent
I
me the most
thought we
current one.
addressed that part in with the school section.
Are they still available on the website?
Well, I'm just saying, if it's summarized, if there's one, like,
Draft.
couple of paragraphs that you can put into the financial, because when someone looks at the financial, they're gonna look for financial.
Yeah, right. But what I'm saying is we may already have that,
Great.
just in another section.
Well, I'm sure it's somewhere, it's.
I'm pretty sure it was in the schools when we-
I know you guys speak that to death all the time, every year.
When we were doing it.
But there's not a finance committee person on this board?
We have been trying to get a person on, and Ray has been asking his committee on a regular basis, and, I know I think Ray recently had said that, that the committee members just feel like it's a lot of time commitment involved in this, and I think everyone who's on the committee now will tell you that it has been a lot of time commitment, but if we're going to do it right, we need to have representatives from those key stakeholder groups to be included. So he said he would go back and check with his committee again.
Maybe if we get like you were saying, put something together as kind of the first draft, this is it, and then get everybody at the table and start
Yeah.
hashing it out.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
When we did our meeting to sort of go over and get town feedback on the chapters that we had addressed, I don't think that evening there were people in this room that were from those committees, but did we get feedback from people from different committees on that at all?
From the stakeholder groups or
Yeah.
other committees?
Either.
So for the first public forum we had, we reviewed economic development, which was a chapter developed through them, through the Economic Development Task Force. They did not send a representative to speak to that night, but we did get a few comments back which were sent to them.
Mhm.
There's been no further edits on them. School committee did their presentation. School committee did receive a few comments. They have not made edits to the chapter based on those comments, which is, they don't
Right.
have to, they just have to consider them. We also did transportation and
Population and housing, maybe?
population
Land use?
housing. Yep. And there was comments on those last two
Mhm.
that I just mentioned, but there were no suggested edits to
Okay.
it.
So I think committees are all sort of embroiled in what they're focused on, not what the other
That's the
groups are
concerns
doing,
that
and
they
that's
have.
why
Yeah.
we're trying to look at it as a whole when everybody's given us some feedback.
Yeah,
Some
right
input,
now,
really.
We're all operating in silos.
Mhm.
And that's where we've got to kind of break break down those silos and start having people look at everything, which will be interesting.
But that's what, I think that's what the townspeople want. I mean, we need to see what's coming at us,
Yep.
and not just one thing at a time. But I can happily say the open space and recreation plan got its final approval for the 2018 version just last week, I think it was, from the state. So that's a done deal.
That's great.
So now what I hope to do is pull out, if I can find, actually, if you could send me the most current open space section, so I don't have to try to dig out. I know I've got like 3 versions. Did you do the
No.
open space? That
I
was
think
Joanne.
Joanne did, yeah.
So the open space agreement that you guys were...
Open space and rec plan, which is parks and open space stuff, that goes to the state, so that if we can go, when we go to before town meeting, we can actually oftentimes get 50% matching grant money for a project. So it's a good thing to have in our pockets.
Right.
We hired CMRPC to help draft that whole thing a year, 2 years ago, maybe? It's been a while, and it's
So-
finally gotten done.
So why don't we just, for this plan, why don't we just adopt what they've already...
Well, I want to
It's already
summarize
been
it.
accepted.
It's
Right, it's now to
180
summarize it, get it
pages.
updated.
Summary.
So that's what I wanted to get, was the most current draft of the open space and rec section, and then I can pull what's in the document that we just got and feed it into that. But I know I've got like 4 versions of it, and I don't want to put it in the wrong one.
And they'll need to take, their top priorities to establish into the chapter to work on for the next 5 years.
But that wasn't written by us, right? That
It
came
was,
up,
well, by who's us?
Not this group.
not our group.
Not
it
the
was-
town planning committee, it's written by the Open Space Implementation Committee and the Parks Commission and CMRPC helped with it.
Yeah, see, I, for some reason, I was unaware that group existed and that they were coming up with their own
Well, we had it
version
a year
of
ago,
what
we
the
did a
chapter,
survey.
what that chapter is, really.
Yeah, we did a survey a year ago or 2
Yeah.
years ago now.
Two.
It's been a while, of what the town wanted for recreation, whether they were happy with what we've got. We had just finished back at that time, this whole Goodale Park Master Plan, the $20 million proposal. And everybody liked the idea of the stuff that was in it, but we're not feasibly able to pay for
No.
that. So we gotta start thinking, okay, what can we feasibly do? And so we try to get bits and pieces of that done, to try to get the track fixed. And the Parks Commission is taking the lead on that kind of stuff, which is their position, and that's what they're doing. But that's also included in the open space and rec plan. We have that Goodale Park master plan noted in there, but the recommendation is to find a feasible, financially feasible way of implementing the top priority issues, which are, we need to get, whatever it is, the MIIA, the Mass Intercollegiate Athletic Association, some one of those things. But there are certain standards for facilities, and we need to meet that if we're gonna have home games for soccer, for football, for track, for whatever it might be. So that's kind of the goal of what we're looking, or what they were looking at least as of last spring. I'm not sure how much progress they've made since then, but that was the idea, and we we're gonna try to take that so that when we do this write-up for the comprehensive plan, we don't look at the 20-year build-out of a $20 million project. We look in the next 5 years and say, okay, these projects here can get done, and then that can get incorporated. At the time that it was done, we didn't have the use of the field down on Shrewsbury Street, that baseball field that's on Shrewsbury Street. And so we had to jam in 2 baseball, 2 Little League fields in that area. Well, now we have a field that, at least at the planning board, he said he offered to the town for free use for a certain number of games. So we might be able to tweak the master plan at Goodale Park, which makes a lot of sense, because they gave it to us. The guy, the Beta, the company that did it, had it in little pods or little sections, so you could kind of, okay, if this baseball field is out, we could slide this one over here. Then, instead of trying to move everything up onto the granite or the ledge field up on the top, it's going to cost $4 million just to take the ledge out for any facilities. We don't have to go up there. We can just keep the thing where it is and just expand it a little, and then move this over a little, and hopefully we'll make it work. And that's what the Parks Commission, I think, is reviewing and going through it. But again, it keeps.
So the original open space and planning chapter that's in the 2005 edition was written by this group, or
It was written by
a variation of this
the
group?
Open Space Committee back in
But-
'98.
Okay, so that committee was always a contributor to that particular
To that
chapter?
section, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Many of the same hardworking folks.
yeah.
Committed.
You should be, yes.
So, are we good with agenda item 1, review of the chapters and ready to go? We jump to schedule and prepare for the public forum. Because as we're hearing, the FinCom will go through the chapter and they'll get us back their edits. I don't know what their schedule is for meeting, plus they have other things that are coming up for the October town meeting and such. So there's no guarantee that they would get us back their edits in time for a September forum that we've been talking about last time we met. There's historic cultural still needs some tweaking. So.
Yeah, I'm working with, it's Carol, the Historic Society. I interviewed her, did a quick draft, shipped it off to her with my thoughts. She's looking it over, she's gonna update it, share it with the board, get back to me, and I'll probably be talking with her this week, just to kind of see where we're at and answer any questions they have. I know I was kind of rushing her to get me something back, or at least get a little bit of feedback, like, okay, I've given you a skeleton to flesh out here. Are you gonna be okay with it? So I'm curious to see how that's going.
I should send you also, I don't have any email addresses for the Historic Commission members, but I do have Goodale's telephone number.
Okay.
So I'm hoping she won't mind if I give that to you and you
And,
could contact her.
Sure, and the other question I had was, I didn't know if that was the only group I should be talking to. I mean, I looked over a lot of what you had written before, and I mean, there's a lot of history here, but as far as who's actively doing things about that, I wasn't sure if there was someone else I
Carol
should
had
reach out
mentioned that
to.
they were hiring a person and/or using a person from the library that is a little bit more computer or social web
Right, that was one of
experienced
their-
or whatever.
I guess I meant like a different group, like other than the Historical Society, is there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I reached out to Jack McCormick, who is kind of a hub of a lot of different groups, post 204, active in a lot of different ways, or at least knows people that are active in a lot of different things that are in town. So he had gotten a copy originally. Obviously, I had spoken to the library, Anna over at the library, and she had gotten a copy. A lot of people they liked what was originally there. They really didn't have an agenda to push,
Okay.
to look, to try to see it any differently, and it has to be probably the least impact chapter of what we're going for, because,
But in
Isaiah
general-
Thompson is not getting up from his grave and saying, hey, wait a minute, I need to be mentioned in this chapter, so,
Yeah, but one thing that was pretty clear with cultural and historical coming together is all of these groups are sort of suffering the same issue of, we need bodies, we need people, we
Well,
need,
I-
and working towards that same goal of how do we get visibility, how do we involve people, what do people want to know, how do they want to access it? They all sort of have that same goal, and they're all doing it with the same sort of overtaxed group of people. So I
Yeah.
think identifying that maybe gives somebody out there that little niche of, oh, I could do that, I could help with that. And if you help one group, it's going to help all the groups,
Yeah.
because they're all kind of looking at, reinstituting a lot of the town events that went away. It's
Yeah.
the same issue, who's going to do it, who's going to run it,
I
who's
think you're
going to
gonna
manage
see
it.
the Celebrate group, from what I'm hearing, they're really struggling, the ones that do with the concerts
Right.
and then the parade day in May. They're really, I think, close
Yeah.
to throwing in the towel, so I think that's a group, because that's separate.
Right.
That's the one that we
It's called,
talked.
it's interesting because we have a town celebration committee and then we have a non-town committee called It's a Celebration.
Right.
And they're
Okay.
commonly confused.
Right.
But It's a Celebration, the non-town committee, sounds like they are close to having to disband just because of lack of new
Right.
members to help carry things on.
Mm.
So, but those are the types of things that we can and should put into this
Right, that's-
cultural and historic chapter, because that is a key issue.
Right. If there's nobody there to man the building, then,
Well, when you said
What are we
John
gonna do?
McCormick, he's on both of those groups, so he's a
Yeah.
good source.
or even just, making it a little more obvious some way, somehow, as to what's really there. My very brief chat with her was really eye-opening to me at what was available right down the street. I mean, walked by it to get to a meeting.
I think a lot of these groups have had flush, members, and now it's kind of just withered to the point where it's one or two people, and in some cases, nobody left in those key positions, so.
So, I mean, if it matters to the
I think it's
town.
gonna take someone actually stepping into that role and saying, okay, let me try to pull together these groups in some way and try to, again, focus so that it's not so disjointed. And I think that's what Mark Baldy did for a while. And just, it's too much for one person. And it's actually too much responsibility for one person to really have, it really should be a committee. Maybe we can make a recommendation that we see about making it a committee.
Well, we do have a committee at Belmont, we just have to get more
Get it.
life in it.
Right.
Because, Pat Barry, if you
Right.
talk to her, she's very motivated, very committed to doing this.
Do we have a cultural, historical and cultural committee?
No.
No, we
We have the
haven't.
Historic Commission, we have the Celebration Committee, we have the Bandstand Committee.
Yeah.
So they're kind of different pockets that, are trying to do their own individual things, not necessarily, there's some discussion between them in terms of things, but it's not one committee that's kind of responsible for overall.
I've said it 100,000 times, well, I haven't said it 100,000 times, but enough. The stage that's there next to the track has been used going back to the 40s and 50s, and it's looked exactly the same as it looks today. And I'm like, why would any group, person, what have you, continue to come back to this slab of granite with a couple of plugs in it?
Memories, it's like.
Yeah.
But it's been seriously neglected and never given a thought to actually be a venue or a place where people will come. It's been utilized through the years and people have done things with it, but.
It hasn't, but in that master plan, the Park master plan, they have a new.
Stage
I forget what they
area.
call it, a stage,
Yeah.
and it looks out over an area, and it's a nice
part of the
idea.
plan.
And it can be moved around, it's not a specific
Permanent.
location, but it
I
can be
remember that.
adjusted, and that's what we need to really kind of keep focused, and you get that, you need to get bodies, again, that's what it always comes down to,
Well,
being
Yep.
peaceful
well,
and
I
motivated.
think as far as getting the chapters ready, I feel less confident even with my relatively small contribution that it's going to be final up for discussion in September. Because if I get feedback from them, figure out how to sort of break down to combine cultural and historical, and then maybe reach out to a couple other groups. Originally, I was thinking, oh, sure, I can be ready by the end of September.
Yeah,
But I
know-
guess I'm kind of wondering, and then if, financial committee's got to come back to us, and then you've got some updating with the Parks and Open Space and Rec, it sounded
I thought we
like,
put that
so.
off. Did we put open space and rec off to the next phase? That- the last
Well,
one?
we were thinking September for 'em, but maybe it should be later.
So we have a choice of, putting the open space and rec off to the very last grouping?
Oh,
Or should
okay.
we just delay the public forum on the Phase 2 chapters so that they're, because I don't think you're too far off on your
Oh, I'm
open
pretty
space.
close, but
Right.
what I was just gonna say is that we've got a public hearing for this village center zoning that the planning board's trying to work on. At some point, the selectmen are gonna get us something on marijuana that we're gonna
Yeah.
have to hold a public hearing on real soon, actually.
I think realistically, it should be October or
Yeah, we've
November.
got public forums and public
That's my
hearings
2
all
cents
over.
worth.
Right.
To do it the right way and with everything else going, I'd say October, or even better, the beginning of November.
Early November?
Yeah.
Because we've got town meeting right in the middle of October.
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
So why don't we aim for early November?
I think we've been recording and broadcasting a lot of these committees and meetings and things like that. But I think what might be more palatable for the viewers or for the citizens of West Boylston is to have a member or the chairperson of some of these committees to come in and say, hey, this is what we're planning, or this is what we've come up with over the past 3 years, year, or whatever. Come here or come into one of the other recording rooms, and we can put out a special show just based on that particular thing. No frills or frills, no, for lack of a better way of saying it, mucking it up with a lot of extra members and things like that. Just a person kind of giving a little synopsis, hey, this is what this group's been working on. And I think maybe even, I see it very often because I'm involved with PEG. There's always a position that's open. We always have a hard time sometimes filling a lot of these groups and a lot of these committees, but I think if we were to set up a show or a regular flow of getting some members to come in and give just little updates or little things that they're working on, I think that would be a good little bite-size thing that the citizens can really kind of easily identify with, rather than the things that unfortunately the things we've been doing.
Yeah,
It's not in lieu of what we're doing, because I think it's all still important and relevant, but
yeah, there's a lot of people in town who are doing some great things, and no one knows about it.
Nobody knows
Right.
about it.
Parks Commission
Yeah.
is busting their butt trying to organize things. to get
Well,
stuff done.
I know a couple of guys in the next room that would kill to get people to give us more local programming and.
Getting on TV is another question. Working hard and getting things done is
Yeah.
one thing, and then talking about it is more difficult for some.
Yeah.
To that point, though, should we have any mention about our cable channel in the historic cultural?
There's a section in there.
But I
yeah.
know, but I think we mention it, but we don't really talk about it and how it can help with some of these, perhaps helping us with some of these issues of lack of sharing of information, or lack of people
Yeah,
willing to.
the PEG station over the past year and a half or 2 years, whatever, has gone through some more growing pains. We're still trying to get a lot of our policies and procedures down. So I think once the board gets that solidified, I think coming up with a plan, or at least suggesting a plan to the PEG board is, hey, okay, what would you guys like to do as a relevant station, or 3 stations in town, to be able to be more effective communicating. A lot of these meetings, and like tonight, we're being recorded, but we're all sitting at a table, and some of the stuff we're talking about is not very entertaining to watch, and there's only so many camera angles you can shoot of us to make it relevant. But in different formats and different things. I was hosting a show for a while called Community Matters, where I met with Anita. I had interviewed Anita when she first started, interviewed the chief, and I've interviewed Lou over at the jail. So just a point of maybe making those a little bit more available, or starting that forum up as well. But I think the board really needs to solidify its position as far as how they want to operate, and then we can update that part of the chapter, so that we're not working or selling a bill of goods that they're not willing to
In the next
follow
5-year
through
plan.
yet. There you go. Yeah.
To Anita's point, I think we should reach out to them and see if they want to put something in. It doesn't have to be detailed, or,
So Tony's a member of the committee.
yeah.
I sit on the PEG
so-
committee.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, I think that's important, because your board may want a voice, and if they don't, then a couple of lines that sit here.
I think there should be
I think
something.
you should,
You
yeah.
can send an email out to your group or to Chris and say.
I can talk to Chris and
Can
say-
we put it on the next agenda?
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Good
I'll send
point.
it to you.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, in looking at some dates for early November, the primary, or excuse me, the election is November 6th, so that's that Tuesday. We could do either Monday, November 5th, or Thursday, November 8th.
Either one is open for me.
Monday's not the best for me, but I might be able to do it.
Thursday?
Thursday's fine.
Yeah, Thursdays are better than
So
Monday.
why don't we aim toward Thursday, the 8th then? obviously, confirm that within our next meeting or so. Okay. Was there anything else that we wanted to go over tonight? Any other updates or? No?
I think we're good.
Okay. So
Our next meeting is the 18th or the 25th?
we had tentatively set up a special meeting on the 18th to prepare for the public forum, but I think we
Right.
can take that off our calendars.
Okay, that's what I'm looking at. I was like, yeah, we.
So the
That
next
wasn't the
be
case.
October 25th?
No, September.
September, would be the September 25th would be the next regular meeting.
Okay.
It's a Tuesday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll take a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
7:50.
55.